right, so let's talk about the lighting right here. Let's talk about peace. What the world needs now is peace, sweet peace. Love, sweet love. It's just wild. This planet that we live on is just such a wild place. Just such a wild place. And it just seems so clear to me that I'm not even sure I'm going with that. It's not clear to me what's clear to me. I've got just a bunch of thoughts running around in my mind. I'm trying to bring some coherence to it. Gotten a big blowout today at work with a coworker. At one point, who at one point got in my face and, stepped towards me, as though in the first kind of volley in a physical altercation, that kind of stepping to somebody. It was a really wild experience. I sometimes am kind of critical about myself in the sense that I'm not a particularly violent person, and I never really have been. And there's some kind of thought in my mind about there being a connection there with something primal and manly that I need to get in touch with. And maybe there's some truth there. But I notice I do take a stand often, and I stand up to people that aren't willing, who other people are not willing to stand up to. I really dislike gossip. And I've made videos about saying as much. I think it's cowardly, I think it's weak, I think it's cheap, I think it toxifies a workplace. I think it's super prevalent, super cheap, super prevalent. It's a default. Most people just don't even know what their mouths are. It's like these babes, these lost babes, don't even know. I mean, they're just so steeped in it. It's so default, so normal. They don't even know what they're doing, just how casually, how normal it is to just trash people when they're not around. And I really have a distaste for that. I don't like it. Being on, as a principle, just as a general principle, there's just nothing good that flows from it. It's such a easy, there's many things that in life that are complicated and, can be hard to alter the course of one's life. But that's one of those little life hacks that just massively boosts your soul points, your mental health points, your relationship points, your personal integrity points, your spirit points, just such a clean, clear thing. Don't say things around others that you wouldn't say to them. Don't say things about somebody that you wouldn't first say to their face. It's something like that. Maybe there's a little bit cleaner way of saying the principle. And I don't do it perfectly. And I've even been softening my stance in not really on that, but kind of an adjacent issue, because I have been so hardline in that direction, just because I see it as such a scourge, such a plague in this world. But you work in a place like I'm working right now with just a huge amount of people. And I mean, it's the crayon box of humanity kind of a workplace, and you'll drive yourself crazy holding on to your values so puritanically. So I think yeah, I mean, I've been experimenting a little bit with venting to people and, uh, if I'm frustrated about something. But I've noticed even then, in one case that I did it, I still followed up and went and had a direct conversation with the person. I made a video about that, and it actually went really well. And see, the thing is here, it's like, especially for men, women, let me break down both genders here. Women, notorious for gossip. It's sort of, there's all these kind of biological theories about, since they don't have the physical strength to do physical damage, they do reputational damage. That's the weapon that they wield. And so they have this more developed social, emotional intelligence, and they marshal it often in the shadow side of femininity to reputationally destroy someone, to gain allies, and to isolate somebody. That's part of what gossip does, is it creates an us versus them. And it's like a spell you cast over yourself and the other people who are in on the gossip train, the conspiracy of the gossip. And so, and I've heard nuns speaking out about this, and I really admire that. It's a shame that it takes somebody living a holy life to recognize how damaging. Everybody knows how damaging it is, but it's like, it takes, I don't know, it takes a certain amount of maturity, a certain amount of healing, a certain amount of reflection, a certain amount of having been on the other end of it. Anyway, so women can be very vicious, and they tend to just gossip default. Sorry. Sorry, women, but I'm not telling you anything you don't know. That's just how it is. It's bad. They should not do that. And I'm going to propose the alternative here in a moment. Don't do that, people. Don't do that. And I'm talking to women in particular right now. And I'll get to why I think it is so prevalent. Men, so women just kind of full throttle gossip trains from as young as, it's part of the conditioning. I guess there's these biological, I don't know if I'd fully buy it, but I can see the theory behind it, that biological evolutionary perspective. But that's not to say that it's inevitable, and that's not to say that it's instinctual or you can't transcend it or transform it. So I don't want to let anybody off the hook that way. Men in times of conflict men are just as bad. Having said that, men are just as bad. And maybe men is not the right word there, because I don't see that as manly at all. There's nothing manly about that. But I can just affirm, having worked this job and the department I'm in, mostly men, nonstop gossip, shit talking. I guess the male version, you tend to say more is like shit talking. It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. Same damn thing. And I want to say that because, I was even kind of setting it up in a way that is kind of how it usually gets talked about, that men don't do it, but boy, do they do it. And it's painful. It's painful to have it happen to you, and there's just a total lack of integrity in it, and it's a lack of integrity. But yeah, they do it. I just hear the shit getting talked about. This person behind their back, then that person's not around. So then we're talking about this guy, and then now it's this guy, and it just ricochets. It toxifies and it ricochets, and nothing gets resolved, and there's all these unspoken, swept under the rug type of emotions. It's really hard when you give a damn about people, you give a damn about your own integrity, you give a damn about trying to live a holy life, trying to live a good life, trying to live a life with integrity. It's really difficult when you don't have any environmental support, You're swimming upstream constantly. It is difficult. It is really difficult to have a value placed on this thing called honesty, integrity, sincerity, humility. So that tends to be one thing. So men do that absolutely. The other option, for men is total hostility, anger, hostility, aggression, violence. Hostility, that's a good word for it, I think. So I'm going to talk shit about you, or on the off chance that it does come to the surface, and usually it does, and usually it comes out sideways because all the shit that's been talked, all the resentment that has built, all the shit that's been talked, it comes out aggressive, comes out angry, And then there's blowback, major blowback from that, right? Once that eruption happens, there's always tons of blowback. That, in a nutshell, is the human condition, basically what I just described as regards humans interacting with other humans. Hide your feelings, toxify the situation, talk shit about people, and then blow up. And hurt people. You hurt people. You hurt people. You hurt people. Huge cost to the person who's carrying the hurt and the person that they hurt and everybody around, and it's just a nightmare. The alternative, there is an alternative. You don't have to do either of those extremes. I know, crazy, right? There is a different way to do this, guys. Be humble, be sincere, talk to the person directly. And now how the ego is going to hear that is they say, okay, yeah, I'll go up and I'm going to let him have it. I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. I'm going to shred him. He's the enemy and I'm going to shred him. She's the enemy. I'm going to shred her. That's not, come on, guys. That's not the, please. What I'm talking about is being humble, expressing your emotions. I know it's crazy. Cracking just the tiniest little bit of a door open on one's emotional state, one's vulnerability. Not in every context. Again, don't rush to extremes with anything I'm saying. Not in every context, but in many contexts. Approach somebody. Hey, do you have a minute? I'd like to talk to you about something. They may say no. Uh-oh. You got to respect that. At least you tried. You can rest easy knowing you were willing to engage. And in a work context, okay, they were not adult enough, mature enough, you approached it in a calm, respectful way. They say they're not willing to talk, or they walk away, whatever. Then you can go to the manager, the supervisor, HR, whatever. But you tried, and you were adult about it. And you did something radical. Shouldn't be, but it is. It's absolutely counterintuitive, or let's say countercultural. Counter to our conditioning, which is you didn't talk shit in preparation for it. You figured out, well, let me back up. Figure out what is going on inside of you, and it's not going to be that difficult. It's usually going to be, I'm upset. That's really all the language you need. I'm upset. I'm feeling resentment. I'm feeling anger. And be specific. I noticed this happening at this time, this happening at this time. Okay? Be reflective enough to think, are those reasonable things to be upset about? Just ask yourself. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. If they are, okay, fine. Yeah, this is reasonable. I'm having a reasonable reaction to something that is unfair, unjust, right? So you've done a little bit of preparatory work rather than fuck them, fuck them, fuck them. That's the unhealed mind. That's the ego. That's demonic influence, to be perfectly honest. They love that stuff, man. From the other, you know, the diabolical unseen forces, let's say, in creation, love to just juice that stuff up in our psyche. And if that's where your mindset and you're going into a conversation like that, it will not work. You've already lost. Don't even do it. Give up on it. You're the problem at that point. They may have done stuff that's messed up, but you're not going to resolve it. You don't have to invalidate or gaslight yourself. You acknowledge your feelings. I'm upset. We have to recognize people will not be able to hear you if they feel attacked. You have to have some semblance of, you have to have some sense of human psychology. Just look at how you feel, you know, when people approach you. And have there been times when somebody gave you good feedback, you were able to hear it, and it was transformative? Hopefully there's been one or two cases like that in your life. Learn from that. What did they do? So you can approach somebody, ask them in a humble way, hey, do you have a minute now, or maybe, you know, when you have a free moment? Start off by just saying, hey, I'm not perfect, you know, and or you could start off even before that, say, I appreciate you being willing to talk, and if you have some common ground with this person, ask them how their day's going. Ask them, like I had this conversation with a coworker yesterday, I think, and I knew he'd been in a car wreck a few weeks back or a month or so back. So I asked him about that and you know, gave him a chance to talk and tried to connect and show build a little bit of rapport, you know. Not in a conniving way, not in a cunning way, not in a Machiavellian, or what's the word? Insincere way, but no, just trying to talk. And that'll help settle you down too. Because if you're trying to talk with somebody, rather than doing the default of gossiping, the easy, cheap, cowardly thing, or attacking them, no, you're trying this other thing, and that's already heroic. I'll just say it shouldn't be heroic, probably, but it is. It takes a certain amount of courage and integrity, high character. You're doing that just building a little bit of easy rapport will help settle you down too. Part of it is learning how to navigate and settle into these moments yourself so you can speak more clearly and hear them more clearly as best as you can. It's not easy, and we don't have good training around it, so it can be a little bit, have a little bit of compassion for yourself. But yeah, so open up in that way. Try to build a little rapport. If you have something nice to say about them, you know, say, you know, you could say before, you know, I'm feeling upset. I'm having some resentments coming up. I'm hoping we can talk it out and try to clear the air. And maybe even before you say that, you could say, hey, I'm a really imperfect person. Nothing that I'm about to say, I don't want to imply that I am not. You know, I'm a very imperfect person. If I come across disrespectful, please forgive me. That's not my intention. You know, I'm just giving some language here that can help, you know, set a bigger, expand the field of the conversation. And it works. I've done this. Please believe me, I've done this many times. And you can even say something like, and if I have been disrespectful to you in the past, please forgive me, you know. And you'll find the right language. I'm just giving some, you know, having done this so many times, I'm giving some things that I think are useful. And you'll find that if it's sincere, it helps to settle you too, because you're feeling more humbled. You're not coming in this as, I'm trying to win. No, you're not trying to win. The goal is to express the upset. Secondary goal, but one that is always open, you always keep open the possibility, is that you transform the situation. You're not hanging your hat on whether or not on the outcome, but you keep that door open. And this, what I'm describing, is how you keep that door open, because you're humanizing them. You're leveling with them. You're looking at them in the eye. You know, your breath's maybe starting to even out a little bit as you're talking. So yeah, I'm not a perfect person, and forgive me if this comes across disrespectful. Another thing I say is, I'm trying to talk to you directly because I really dislike gossip. I don't like it when people are talking shit behind each other's backs. You know, to me, it's uh, disrespectful. Or yeah, I don't like to gossip. So I try to talk to people directly, work things out directly, rather than going to the supervisor or whatever. If you're at work, or you'll figure out whatever the context is. And so you can flag that. I'm trying to talk to you directly, and this is hard to do, and it's uncomfortable. I don't like doing this. You can even humanize yourself by saying that. I don't like doing this, but it's better than carrying a grievance around or feeling more and more resentful. And you'll feel it out in the situation. Some people are really open to it, especially if you set the table right and you can get some of this language in that kind of opens things up. And then you just be specific, I'm feeling, express how you feel. I'm feeling resentful. I notice that, and then you explain, try to be logical, rational, straightforward, not emotional. Just describe what you've seen. You could even say, I really value working hard. I show up, I put in a good effort. This job means something to me, and it bothers me when I see people, or when I see you, or you could say even in general, when I see people that aren't putting in a full effort, that are kind of coasting. You could say it kind of generally. That's one way. You could say, I noticed today, I'll just be specific with the incident that happened with me. I noticed today you had the salads out for 2 hours. You were gone off the floor for over an hour, didn't know where you were, or whatever it is that you noticed, whatever it is that you observed, and then say, and that bothers me, because because I don't feel like you're giving the same effort. I feel like you're coasting. That's what I told this guy, Again, I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm trying to express, and for me, I wait a long time. I try to gather as much information. I'm stepping out of the dialogue right now. I'm just giving an aside. Another important aspect of this is I try to gather a lot of information. Like this guy that I talked to, he is somebody that other people on the crew have expressed a lot of issues with, and I've noticed things over time. I've had to talk to him in the past before. And so, because you don't want to just go around flame throwing every little thing that happens, and there is a place for kind of letting something go. Or the other thing is, when you stay open in a conversation, you may be proven wrong. That's like advanced level, or at least intermediate level, is going into it recognizing I've been wrong in the past. I've misapprehended the situation in the past. There may be what's the word? Extenuating circumstances. I don't know what the right word is. Other variables that I haven't been aware of. And so it's possible I'm wrong. And actually, I did say this in the recent conversation I had. I said, hey, it's totally possible I'm wrong here. This is just what I've seen, and this is my reaction to it. But sometimes I have found that I just misunderstood something, or only partially understood it, and that softened a little bit the reaction I was having. But see, you don't know any of that unless you have the courage to talk to somebody, and the humility to be wrong, the humility to take in new information, the humility to have. Now, you also have to be somewhat on guard, because people, even in the most skillful circumstances, people are immature, they don't have good communication skills, they're going to feel attacked, even if you've done it really skillfully. They're going to feel less attacked, and there's always a possibility of a transformative conversation. But sometimes, maybe often, maybe most of the time, I don't know, I guess it depends on who you're talking to, there's a possibility there that they're just going to gaslight you, that they're going to deny, even when you've been humble and tried to hedge things and soften the parameters and open things up, been a little bit vulnerable, sharing your emotions. So you have to be on guard about that too. That's real too. This isn't like airy-fairy, everything's going to go great. No, sometimes people will just even people you think that there's an opening there to talk to. I mean, some people it's just not even worth it, and you'll find that out pretty quickly, and you probably even have an intuitive sense like this person just will not. There's just a no-go there, and that's a possibility. This doesn't work in every case. But so there's all kinds of different conditions and possibilities here. I'm just trying to chart, a few of them. Yeah, so be on guard about that too, that somebody may gaslight you and they may make up excuses and they may, and if you're being concrete and logical and grounded, you'll be able to sense it usually. Or you might be able to sense, okay, there's some truth in what they're saying here, and I can compromise or I can see it that way. But this part is still not true, and I still do have a valid point, and it's important for me to continue to speak it and to stand where I'm standing. You don't have to be hostile, but you can be firm. And you can ask for feedback. That's another thing I did. How is this coming across to you? What's your feedback on all this? Is there something? I don't know if I said this yesterday. I may or may not, but this is a good thing to say. Is there anything true about what I'm saying? And that gets them to kind of reflect, and show if they've got some humility and they can meet you halfway or they can open up, and that can help build rapport and transform something. And you can ask them directly. Like in this case, I asked this guy, do you think you can put in more effort? I just asked him point blank. And see, the thing is here, this guy expressed he had all kinds of stuff going on in his life, family death, the injury that he's recovering from sounds like it was pretty bad. And so that did slightly alter. I mean, I was already going into it pretty soft. It never feels good to do this. I wish I never had to do this. I don't want to babysit people. I don't want to, not the supervisor, But so that was something to consider, and maybe I didn't consider it enough. I've thought that in the aftermath of this conversation. Maybe I didn't let that adjust my own reading of the picture enough. But I still felt like I was making a valid point, and I tried to provide some specifics. Anyways, the alternative to that is, assassinations, civil war, suicides, bullying, spousal abuse, violence. Isn't that clear? Isn't that crystal fucking clear? How do people not see that? It's a roller coaster. You're on the gossip train, you're riding high, you're on the brunt of it. It's a seesaw, and you're never at peace. There's no peace there. There's zero peace there. I can promise you that. That's not a peaceful position. That's a position of hypervigilance, of having to maintain your borders, having to keep fighting. We need peace in this world. And I watched all this political commentary to get a sense of where things are at, and it's intriguing to me, and I enjoy watching people have heated debates, but sometimes I just think it's just they're both running the same exact mind virus, both sides, every side. The tribalists, the tribal entrenchment, our side versus their side. It's an arms race, basically. It's an identity arms race with real world consequences. And they kill you for trying something different. I have a spiritual teacher that I've talked about and spent time with, and he's made the point in the past. He said, you stand for your truth nowadays, in the context of talking about Jesus. Yeah, they killed him for being the truth, for speaking the truth. And then he's gone on to make the point, we live in a day and age where the worst that's going to happen to you is, maybe some mean posts on social media or something. Unfortunately, not that that's not true, but unfortunately that's not accurate, people, you will get, you not always, it's rare, and an event like this probably makes it seem like it's more, but I mean, an event like Charlie Kirk getting killed, but not leaving aside just the small percentage of the population, but not trivial, not insignificant percent of the population who are just genuinely so damaged and confused and sick that they'd probably qualify diagnostically as a psychopath or a sociopath. Leaving aside those people, I'm not sure the point I'm trying to make here, but you everything from just vitriolic hate posts up to, assassination, up to civil war. I mean, we've just been playing this game for so long. Read a history book. I mean, there's nothing surprising, nothing novel about what I'm saying. And yet, we just get so lost. We get so lost. So damn fucking lost. We get so damn lost in our righteousness, in our pain, confusion, schadenfreude, delighting in other people's misery, Just talk. Talk to somebody. Talk to people that you're upset with. But see, what we're not willing to hear in that message is you have to sacrifice a little bit of yourself too. You have to say, I'm not perfect. I may not be getting this right. It's valid what I'm feeling. I'm not trying to mow you down. I'm not trying to kill you metaphorically, energetically, literally. Let's just talk. Can you just talk to somebody? Express, from a heartfelt place. And if not, then you go to other steps. And so I had this altercation with this guy today. And he's a young guy and got anger issues, not a mature person in terms of being able to have an adult conversation. I don't know his life story. He's kind of a rough character. I mean, he works, well, I don't want to get too many specifics, but plays loud music that is very, just aggressive and vulgar, let's say. Just a rough, kind of a rough character. And I'm guessing probably comes from a rough background. That's my sense of it. You just energetically, I've grown up around, I don't know if gang, thug, I don't know what the appropriate word is, please forgive me, but kind of that kind of a vibe. And anyways, and I'll just say from right out, that's an intimidating vibe. It's a vibe where, what do you do when there's an issue there? Because you're going to face violence, potentially, hostility, definitely, an inability to have an honest conversation. But yeah, there's been incidents. One when he was slamming company equipment, or it happened to be my thing that I was using, and so that upset me. So I tried to talk to him, And again, I did all the strategies I'm talking about here. I said, hey, do you have a minute? Is there a chance we could talk? That kind of a thing. And blew it off, asked him again, and just flew into a rage, started cussing and just getting aggressive, getting hostile. Now, I don't know if I've closed this loop, but and I almost hesitate to say this because it seems a little bit, yeah, I don't think it's arrogant to say this, or certainly don't mean it to be. In a sense, it almost seems impersonal, but sometimes I feel a little bit like, well, I've just noticed, because I've been in some of these, I've noticed there's a certain courage that shows up for me, that I've had to confront people in the past. I try to just do my own thing, and lead by example. That I'm big on that. Just lead by example. You don't have to talk a lot. Most of the talking that people do is just empty air, hot air, blowing hot air, vain in the kind of biblical sense, Ecclesiastes, the way he uses it. Meaningless, filler. That's not me. I don't like small talk. I'm more of an introvert. I'll have a deep dive on something. But even that, more and more, I just like to keep my own silence. Just, in the context of a job, my philosophy is just, you're getting paid, do the job. Show up, do the job. Be respectful to people, to be cordial to people, be kind. You don't have to be like a machine, but fundamentally just do the job, Simple as that. And that is respectful. That is kind. Somebody's paying you to do something, they hired you. Anyways, so just, but yeah, so I tried to talk with this guy at one point, and didn't happen. It happened, but it was like pulling teeth, and it was pretty aggressive and angry. Just angry young guy. And see, there's more stuff that I disagree with at this place. At some point, again, you kind of have to just let things go. And so, as much as possible, like I say, I just do that. There's a ton of stuff that bothers me if I really dwell on it, that I don't agree with. Gossip, like I said, people not doing their job, and that feeling of like, shit, I'm carrying everybody's weight here, all that kind of stuff, But there's limits to that too, and sometimes you do have to speak up. But it's just there's no surprises after a certain point, after a certain number of years on planet Earth, and you know how things are going to go. So you don't really necessarily look forward to it, but the blowback, and it just bothers me that adults can't just do their job. Anyways, so I did. So something happened today. This guy, it was like 3 hours. I didn't see any changes. It was like nobody was, this guy in particular wasn't taking care of business. And so when I finally saw him after 3.5 hours, a little over 3 hours. I went up to him and I said, hey, where have you been? He says, what do you mean? And I say, well, I mean no disrespect, but I've seen no progress on. See, I kind of don't want to give specifics about the job just because I want to keep this anonymous. I don't want to fall into the trap of, not that anybody's even going to watch this probably, but that's what integrity is, I guess, even if nobody's watching. But the specific thing wasn't getting done, and so I said, yeah, I haven't seen any progress on this. And right at that, the guy just stopped and just walks away. Doesn't engage, doesn't want to have a conversation. Because of the history with this guy, because of all the context about it, I felt like I'd done my job at that point. There was no manager in today, which is another problem. And even when there is, especially when there's no manager, this guy and other guys, the lack of work ethic. I feel like I mean, I am ranting, but I feel like a old man rant or something, but it just shocks me. Again, the lack of work ethic. It's like people, their default mode is what's the minimum amount of work I can do and still get paid? And that really bothers me. And it's shocking just how people don't think twice about that. That's just like how they are. And there's a handful of people like that in this crew of 15 or however many people. And so, especially when a manager's not around, it's prime time for kicking back. But the problem is, not only is it just fundamentally, principally wrong in terms of the principle, in terms of integrity, not to do it, but it's just so happens that this job not getting done messes up the flow of other departments, definitely our department, of what needs to get done. I don't know. So, and maybe I shouldn't have approached him. I don't know. But I did, and I brought it up. Forgive me, God, if I did it wrong. I never know. That's the problem. At some point, you never know. Was this the right thing to do? I know I tried. And for me, part of the growth, I think, is speaking more into these situations and taking a stand. And I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe that's not what God wanted me to do. So who knows? Forgive me, God, if I got this one wrong. Forgive me if I didn't understand, but I don't think I did. And I certainly didn't approach yelling and pissed off. I think I've shown quite a bit of patience, quite a bit of patience or whatever over these past weeks with this guy, and just trying to go about my own business, keep my own peace. But anyway, so he walks away, and for me, that's the end of that. In my mind, I think, okay, I'm not going to keep pushing the issue. I tried. I spoke up. That took some courage on my part. Nobody else on the crew's doing it. And again, I could be wrong, but that's how I read the situation, and so I spoke up. And the next step is when the manager does come in tomorrow, I'm just going to talk to them. I don't like being a guy who runs the manager. I try to handle my own business. I try to talk to people directly first. If that doesn't work, at that point, I will talk to a manager. I think people run too quickly to an authority. They talk shit, or they just run and have somebody else take care of their own business. And maybe that's an area I could grow into. Maybe what's God is calling me to do is just to go straight to the manager on stuff like this. I just don't like, there's something disempowering or emasculating, or I don't know what it is. It could be ego, I don't know. But I don't like to do that as a first step. But since I did try this and did not work, that's my next step, is I'm going to talk to the manager. Just go about my business, disengage. A guy walks back in front of me. I don't say anything. I don't mean mug him. I don't put out hostile energy. I just let it go. I go about my business, and I go to my task. And as I'm leaving doing what I'm doing, he starts antagonizing and mocking me, saying things kind of under his breath, but audible, loud enough that, he's being antagonistic, mocking, childish, immature, whatever. Referencing what I had said to him, but I'm not even going to go into it, but really unkind, ugly things. So at that point, I've had enough. And that's the point where you take a stand, and that's the point where you're firm. And I walked over to him and I said, all right, and I'm not going to say his name. All right, person, that's enough. Let's go. We're going to go talk to, and I named the the head honcho and all this. And I'm firm, and I'm direct, and I'm letting him know enough. So you're not going to disrespect me like that. Let's go. I've had enough. And that's the energy. And I've noticed that happens sometimes. Something takes over inside of me, that there is this kind of courage. I don't want to even oversell it. I don't want to make a big story about it. But anyway, so that did happen. And I said that. And he flies off the handle. He's pissed. At one point he steps to me, gets in my face, and I don't know exactly what he says. Something about And who are you? Who do you think you are? What are you going to do about it? Or I don't know exactly. That's not verbatim, but that was if that's not verbatim, that was definitely the energy. And you know when somebody's stepping into your face, trying to escalate, trying to fight, that's not a complicated discernment, especially for guys and probably for women too. I don't know, but you know it when it's happening. There's nothing complicated about it. It happened, and there's a ferocity there that comes online for me, and I stay grounded and I stay rooted, and there's a kind of intensity that comes forward, and that's good. That's good that that happens. I don't escalate it. In fact, I think I said, go ahead, go ahead. You know, just saying, I'm here, bro. I'm right here, I'm right here. Go ahead, I'm right here. And that, I don't know, what was interesting is I could see fear in this guy's eyes. It was like a total lack of control. Fear, I'm out of control, I'm raging. There's a lot that's communicated in those moments, the kind of energy. I've got adrenaline going. Maybe there's some fear there, but mostly it's just I'm rooted, I'm here. I'm like, whatever's going to happen, let's go. I'm here. And that just that presence enough backs him off, de-escalates that aspect of it. Now, had I stepped back to him, had I said, you know, I don't know, fuck you, or raised my voice really loud or whatever, that would have escalated it for sure. But there's always this other ground to stand on. That not the I'm going to attack, not that I'm going to get drawn in and I'm going to get into physical altercation, lose my job, not that I'm going to cower. There's this other thing that can happen, this energetic openness, this vitality, this intensity, this fierceness, this firmness. And I'm not saying I'm like anyways. So some other things are said, you know, I say, you're not gonna disrespect me like that. You're not gonna treat me like that. You know why I did that? Because I don't respect you. That was the response. I said, yeah, you don't respect me. That's clear. You don't respect this job. You don't give a shit about the people out there who are working. You know, so there was an intensity to what I was saying too, for sure, but a rootedness. And he's moving all over, and I say, so let's go right now, because I've had enough. You know, I've had enough. I tried it the other way. I tried, you know, different approaches, didn't work. And yeah, so long story long, that's what happened. And then I went and filed a report, and we're gonna see what happens. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect in any of this. I cussed in there, and in my mind, it was appropriate. I wasn't saying you're an asshole, you're a fuck motherfucker, you're a piece of shit. No, I said, the one that I remember is I'm saying, yeah, you don't respect me, you don't give shit about this job, you don't give a shit about, you know. And to me, that was coming from a place of truth, integrity, honesty. Oh, I've heard from other people. This guy has also been talking shit about me behind my back, which is, again, that's the whole gossip thing. So I brought that up. I said, you're talking shit, you know, behind my back, all this stuff, that's enough. I've had enough. So that's another example of what's possible here. And see, when you confront somebody like this, you have to stand in the face of violence. God, why did you create the world this way? I would never. It's just awful. I hate that that's the way it is. I hate that that's where people's minds go, where their conditioning goes. I think it's just ridiculous. Anyways, so yeah, this is me processing it on one level, but I don't. Even immediately after, there's always some adrenaline. Obviously, when you stand in a firestorm like that, when you confront somebody, it's kind of exhausting emotionally. But I didn't feel like there was a whole lot to process. I feel like I got it mostly right. And because I've been trying to live with more integrity in my life, you just have less to hide. There's a virtue there that you kind of don't have to worry about. I'm sure he was flamethrowing me to other people after the fact, and I didn't feel the need to do that. I went to the appropriate people, talked to them, tried to give an honest account, and didn't mention it. Even though there was other people around in the other rooms and stuff, and they definitely heard it and stuff. I didn't bring it up, because there's a peace there. Not a perfect peace. Again, I'm a cracked vessel, but there's an integrity there and something where you don't feel like you have to justify. You just speak the truth. You're honest. And even, reflecting on it afterwards, I think there are things I could have done better. Is my count perfectly honest? I hope so. I hope it's close. I'm trying to be honest with it. Anyways, so who knows what's going to come from that? I'm not hanging much on the outcome because I've had instances where I've had to stand up and it's been mixed results. And a lot of it has to do with the integrity of the people in charge and how much they value having a safe environment, that they would protect and honor and support people who are trying to do right by the company, who are trying to, um, protect, protect what the company, protect the people, protect the work. Anyways, and so who knows? I got fired actually in one instance at a place, a smaller business, and that one I learned a lot from because I don't think I fully got that one right. I think I did a lot right. I think I was coming from a good place. I mostly feel peaceful about it, but I think I sort of misjudged the situation, and I've gotten a little bit better about judging it and hanging back and not reacting right away, gathering information, seeing if things blow over, you know, in ways that I didn't at that other job. But had that been in that case at that other place, had that been a place that really valued integrity and having a healthy workplace culture and honesty and all that, I probably would not have gotten fired. I don't think. I don't know. Who knows? But so it can go any which way. I've given a lot of good effort at this workplace. I think I've proven my integrity or worth or something by showing up all the time, working hard, trying to talk to people directly. And in other conversations, when people are really gossiping a lot towards me about somebody else, I've confronted them, the people who are talking with me. And that's countercultural too, because you want to feel like, ooh, this person's confiding in me and they like me. And there's something nice about that. I'm not going to lie. But in a skillful way, I've tried to redirect and mark it out to people. Like, what I usually say is, have you talked to them directly about that? Have you had a direct conversation? That's not what people want to hear when they're gossiping to you. But if you say it in a skillful way and if you have a rapport with someone, you can sometimes stop the momentum, and there might be a little bit of a self-reflection that can happen. Who knows? But then I'll say something about, I really don't want to be put in the middle of this, or I don't really like gossiping, in part because I've been hurt by it. But I always try to go and talk to there's just different language, and you don't have to get this involved in it, but I'm just trying to share some of what I've discovered. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. What do I want to happen? Part of me thinks fire the guy. Because you don't want to be in an environment where if you speak up, you face threats, you face harassment, antagonism, hostility, somebody stepping to you like they're going to get physical. That doesn't seem like something you want to support in a work environment. I don't think I can't. I just don't understand two things. How do you hire people like that? And how do you be somebody that just is so, I guess just that work ethic thing again, but an ideal situation, which will not happen likely, an apology, a humble apology, but that I'll wait an entire lifetime, I'm sure, before I get something like that. You never know, but I don't put much stock on it, or I'm not losing sleep over that. Just do your job. Be respectful. Stop talking shit. Stop gossiping. Be kind. Be humble. Just do your job, you know? Just do your job. You don't need people to babysit you. Just do your job. Do I want to keep working with this guy? No, I don't really. I also don't feel like a great sense of fear or anything. I mean, I stood my ground. I think I more, had integrity, all that. There's something that happens when you do that too, where you don't have a whole lot of lingering animus. There's so much that you can't control, but what you can control on your side of the street, if you do a reasonable job, if you're a thoughtful person, you can sleep at night. I'm sure there's going to be blowback and factions and all that stuff, and I don't look forward to all that. That's another the cost of being the one to stand up. It's all these costs that psychologically weigh on you, and who knows? Who knows? And again, I may not have gotten it right. Maybe I should have just let it go and not intervened, not talked, spoken up. But I've done so much of that at this job. And I notice, resentments build, and sometimes I move past them. Anyways, so who knows? Lord, forgive me any and all mistakes. I'm an imperfect person. I could have approached, and there's probably a better energy, there is a better energy, there is a better way I could have said things. It wasn't the worst energy, contextually and everything considered, but forgive me, Lord, my mistakes. May something good come of this. And that's really my prayer for the world. Let's talk. Let's try something different. Just retreating into our corners and entrenching in our ideologies. Let's try something different, man. Let's try something transformative. I know that's sort of pissing in the wind or whatever the expression is, but Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy upon this world. Got something else I want to talk about, and I'm going to hold off for another video. Take care.